My name is Marina, and I'm 34 years old. As a single mother to 4-year-old twins, I've always prided myself on being strong and independent. But nothing prepared me for that Saturday morning when excruciating abdominal pain left me doubled over on the bathroom floor. As I was rushed to emergency surgery for a ruptured gallbladder, I called my parents, begging them to watch my children. Their cold response still echoes in my mind. "You're such a nuisance and burden. We have Elton John tickets with your sister tonight." If you're watching this video, what would you do in my situation? Don't forget to like and subscribe to find out what happened next in this heart-wrenching family betrayal. Life before the crisis was what most would call successful, at least on the surface. At 34, I had built a thriving interior design business in Portland that allowed me to provide a comfortable life for my twins Lily and Lucas. Their matching blonde curls and mischievous smiles could light up even my darkest days, especially after their father Daniel walked out on us when they were just 1 year old. "I need to find myself," Daniel had said, packing his guitar and heading to Europe to pursue his music career. He promised to stay involved, to call regularly, to send support. Those promises evaporated within months, leaving me to rebuild our lives alone. My relationship with my parents, George and Patricia, had always been complicated. Growing up in their suburban Seattle home, I quickly learned that my younger sister Sophia was the golden child. While I was expected to achieve perfect grades, help around the house, and become the responsible daughter, Sophia was free to pursue her passions without the same expectations. "Marina always handles things," my mother would say whenever family responsibilities arose. "She's the organized one." That pattern continued into adulthood. After graduating with honors in interior design, I worked tirelessly to establish my business. When success came, I bought a beautiful 4-bedroom home in a family-friendly neighborhood perfect for raising the twins. What I didn't expect was becoming the financial backbone for my entire extended family. It started with small requests. My father needed help with medical bills after his knee surgery. Then my mother wanted to renovate their outdated kitchen. Sophia needed help with college tuition, then a down payment for her car. Before I knew it, I was paying for family vacations, covering their credit card debts, and even contributing to their mortgage payments. "We're family," my father would say. "Family takes care of each other." But the care seemed to flow in one direction. While I juggled client meetings, project deadlines, and raising energetic twins, my requests for help became increasingly met with reluctance. "We're getting older, Marina," my mother would sigh when I asked if they could watch the kids for a weekend while I attended a design conference. "Taking care of twins is a lot for people our age." Yet when Sophia needed someone to dog-sit her hyperactive Labrador during her spontaneous trips with friends, my parents eagerly volunteered. When she needed help moving apartments or emotional support after another failed relationship, they dropped everything to be there for her. I tried to maintain balance in my life, creating a routine that allowed me to be both a dedicated mother and a successful businesswoman. The twins attended a wonderful preschool during weekdays, and I scheduled most of my client meetings during those hours. Evenings and weekends were sacred family time, filled with trips to the park, baking cookies, and building pillow forts in our living room. Still, there were moments when I needed support. Times when a client required an urgent meeting or when a project installation ran late. During those occasions, I would call my parents, who lived just 30 minutes away. "Again, Marina?" my mother would ask, making her annoyance clear before reluctantly agreeing. "You really should find more reliable childcare arrangements." Yet I continued supporting them financially, paying for their anniversary cruise to Alaska, covering the property taxes on their house, and helping Sophia with her mounting student loan debt. I never asked for anything in return, except occasional help with my children, their own grandchildren. The twins adored their grandparents despite the strained relationship. Lucas would run to the door shouting, "Grandpa, Grandpa," whenever they visited, while Lily loved showing off her latest artwork to my mother. It broke my heart that my parents couldn't see what treasures their grandchildren were, how deserving they were of their time and love. As autumn approached that year, I began experiencing occasional stomach pain after meals. Nothing severe at first, just uncomfortable twinges that I dismissed as stress, or perhaps eating too quickly while managing the twins. Between client projects and parenting, finding time to see a doctor seemed impossible. "You should get that checked out," my friend Rachel advised during one of our coffee dates when she noticed me wincing after taking a sip of my latte. I will once I finish the Henderson project. I promised, but deep down, I knew I was pushing my health concerns aside, just as I'd been taught to do growing up. What I didn't realize was that those minor twinges were warning signs of something far more serious, a health crisis that would soon force me to reevaluate every relationship in my life and make decisions I never thought I'd have to make. As the leaves changed colors and fell from the trees, something inside me was also reaching a breaking point. My body was sending signals that I was too busy to recognize. Little did I know that ignoring those signals would lead to an emergency that would reveal the true nature of my family's love and commitment, or lack thereof. It was a crisp Saturday morning in October when the pain hit with full force. I had just finished making Mickey Mouse-shaped pancakes for the twins when a searing pain ripped through my abdomen so intense that I dropped the spatula and gripped the kitchen counter to keep from falling. "Mommy?" Lucas looked up from his breakfast, concern etched on his small face. "Your face looks funny." I forced a smile, not wanting to frighten them. "Mommy's tummy hurts a little. Nothing to worry about, sweetie." But within an hour, that little pain had intensified to something unbearable. I was sweating profusely, and the pain had spread to my right shoulder. Moving around became nearly impossible, yet I still had two energetic 4-year-olds to care for. I settled them in front of their favorite cartoon and reached for my phone, calling my next-door neighbor Susan first. Susan and her husband had helped with the twins before during minor emergencies. "Susan, I hate to ask, but I'm really not feeling well." I began, trying to keep my voice steady despite the waves of pain. "Would you be able to watch Lily and Lucas for a few hours while I go to urgent care?" "Oh, Marina, I'm so sorry," Susan replied, genuine regret in her voice. "We're visiting our daughter in Seattle this weekend. We won't be back until tomorrow night." I thanked her and ended the call, trying to think through the fog of pain. I tried 2 other neighbors and a mom from the twins' preschool, but no one was available on such short notice. The twins had finished their cartoon and were now building an elaborate block tower in the living room. I sat on the couch, doubled over, trying to breathe through the increasingly excruciating pain while keeping an eye on them. "Let's play another game," I suggested weakly, helping them set up a simple board game that required minimal movement from me. By noon, I knew this wasn't something I could handle on my own. The pain had become constant and unbearable, accompanied by nausea and chills. I needed medical attention urgently, but what would I do with the twins? With shaking hands, I dialed my parents' number, hoping against hope that they would come through for me this one time when I truly needed them. "Hello?" My mother's cheerful voice answered on the third ring. "Mom," I gasped, struggling to speak through the pain. "I need help. I think I need to go to the emergency room. Something's really wrong. Can you and Dad come watch the twins? Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." There was a pause, and I could hear her covering the phone and speaking to my father. When she returned, her voice had lost its cheerfulness. "Today, Marina, you know we have plans tonight. We've had tickets to see Elton John for months. Sophia got them for us as a gift, and we're all going together." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, I think this is my gallbladder. The pain is unbearable. I need to go to the hospital now." "Can't you call a babysitter?" she suggested. "Or maybe take the children with you to the hospital?" Tears of pain and frustration welled in my eyes. "It's an emergency, Mom. I need help now, not in a few hours. Please." I heard my father's voice in the background asking what was happening, followed by my mother's muffled explanation. Then he came on the line. "Marina, you've always been dramatic about these things," he said dismissively. "Take some pain relievers and lie down. If it's still bad tomorrow, we can talk about it then." "Dad, this isn't something that can wait until tomorrow," I pleaded, my voice breaking. "I'm in serious pain. I need to go to the hospital now." His sigh was heavy with annoyance. "Marina, you've become such a nuisance and a burden since you had those kids. Always needing something, always calling with some crisis. You need to learn to handle these things on your own. We have our own lives too, you know." His words stung worse than the physical pain tearing through my body. "These are your grandchildren," I whispered. "And we love them," my mother interjected, taking the phone back. "But you can't expect us to drop everything every time you have a problem. We've been looking forward to this concert for months. Sophia will be so disappointed if we cancel. So Sophia's disappointment matters more than my health. I asked, the reality of their priorities finally hitting me with crystal clarity. Don't be melodramatic, my mother scolded. Call one of your friends, or call Sophia, maybe she can help. With that suggestion, she hung up, leaving me alone with my pain and two confused children watching their mother cry on the couch. With trembling fingers, I dialed Sophia's number, though I already knew what her answer would be. Hey sis, what's up? She answered, music and laughter in the background. Sophia, I need to go to the emergency room, I explained quickly. Mom and Dad won't help with the twins. Is there any way you could come over for a few hours? Her laugh was short and dismissive. Are you kidding? We've got the Elton John concert tonight. I paid a fortune for those tickets, Marina. Can't you find someone else? In that moment, I realized how truly alone I was, despite having a family just minutes away. The people who should have cared the most about my well-being were more concerned with a concert than with the fact that I was in excruciating pain. I ended the call without another word and looked at my twins, who were now watching me with worried expressions. Lucas had brought me his favorite teddy bear, placing it gently beside me on the couch. To make you feel better, Mommy, he said softly. His innocent gesture of love contrasted so sharply with my family's callous response that it brought fresh tears to my eyes. But it also gave me the strength to take action. I called 911, explaining my symptoms and situation. Within 20 minutes, an ambulance arrived at our house. The paramedics confirmed my suspicion about my gallbladder, noting that my symptoms suggested a possible rupture requiring immediate surgery. What about my children? I asked the female paramedic as they prepared to transport me. I don't have anyone to watch them. Her face softened with sympathy. They can come with us to the hospital for now, and we can contact social services to arrange temporary care if needed. The thought of my children being placed in temporary foster care while I underwent surgery was heartbreaking, but I had run out of options. As the paramedics helped me onto the stretcher, I held onto my twins' hands, trying to reassure them, even as my own world was falling apart. Everything will be okay, I promised them, wondering how I would keep that promise when my own family had just abandoned me in my hour of greatest need. The ride to the hospital is mostly a blur in my memory. The paramedics were kind, allowing Lily and Lucas to sit together near me in the ambulance. They distracted the twins by letting them see some of the less frightening equipment and explaining things in child-friendly terms. Your mommy has a tummy ache that the doctors need to fix, the female paramedic whose name tag read Jenna told them. We're taking her to a special place where they can make her feel better. Despite their efforts, I could see the fear in my children's eyes. Lucas clutched his teddy bear tightly to his chest, while Lily remained unusually quiet, her small hand gripping mine whenever the pain allowed me to reach out to her. Upon arrival at Portland General Hospital, the emergency room was a flurry of activity. The doctors quickly assessed my condition, confirming what the paramedics suspected: my gallbladder had ruptured, and I needed emergency surgery to prevent a potentially life-threatening infection. We need to get you into surgery immediately, the emergency doctor told me, her expression serious. The infection could spread quickly if we don't remove the gallbladder now. Through waves of pain, I gestured toward my twins, who were sitting on plastic chairs near my gurney, wide-eyed and frightened. My children, I managed to say. I don't have anyone to watch them. The doctor frowned slightly, then nodded to a nurse. We'll contact the hospital social worker. In the meantime, the children can stay in the family waiting area with nursing supervision. The thought of my twins being alone with strangers while I was unconscious was unbearable. In desperation, I asked for my phone, which had been placed with my personal belongings. Please, I whispered. I need to try one more thing before you take me to surgery. The nurse handed me my phone, and with shaking hands, I opened a childcare app I had installed months ago but never used. It connected parents with verified background-checked caregivers for last-minute childcare needs. I had created an account but hadn't found the need to use the service until now. As the hospital staff prepared me for surgery, I frantically scrolled through profiles of available caregivers in my area. Most showed they weren't available until evening, but one profile caught my eye. Amanda Williams, 32, former preschool teacher, available for emergency childcare. I immediately sent a message explaining my desperate situation, then called the number listed on her profile. To my immense relief, she answered on the second ring. "Hello, this is Amanda." "Amanda, my name is Marina," I said quickly, my voice strained with pain. "I saw on the app that you're available for emergency childcare. I'm at Portland General Hospital about to go into emergency surgery for a ruptured gallbladder. My 4-year-old twins are here with me, and I have no family available to watch them. I'm desperate." There was a brief pause before Amanda responded, her voice calm and reassuring. "I can be there in 20 minutes. What are your children's names?" Tears of relief streamed down my face as I gave her my children's names and described what they were wearing. "They're scared," I added. "They've never been with a sitter they don't know." "Don't worry," Amanda assured me. "I've worked with children in emergency situations before. I'll bring some books and small toys to help them feel comfortable. Is there anything specific that helps calm them when they're anxious?" I explained that Lucas loved his teddy bear and Lily was comforted by singing. We arranged for Amanda to meet with the hospital social worker upon arrival to verify her identity and credentials before taking charge of the twins. As we ended the call, the anesthesiologist arrived to prepare me for surgery. I asked the nurse to bring my twins over so I could speak to them before being taken to the operating room. "Lily, Lucas," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as they approached my gurney. "Mommy needs to have an operation to fix her tummy. The doctors are going to help me feel better, but I'll be asleep for a while." "Who will take care of us?" Lily asked, her lower lip trembling. "A very nice lady named Amanda is coming to stay with you while I'm asleep," I explained. "She's a teacher who takes care of children, and she's bringing some books and toys for you." Lucas looked doubtful. "I want Grandma and Grandpa." His innocent words twisted the knife of betrayal deeper. "Grandma and Grandpa can't come today," I said, swallowing the bitter truth that they wouldn't come, not that they couldn't. "But Amanda is very excited to meet you both, and the nice people here at the hospital will make sure you're safe until I wake up." The anesthesiologist gently indicated that we needed to proceed. I kissed my children's foreheads, promising I would see them soon, and watched with a breaking heart as the nurse led them back to the waiting area. As they wheeled me toward the operating room, I checked my phone one last time and saw a message from Amanda with her photo attached, saying she had arrived at the hospital and was meeting with the social worker. Seeing her kind face brought me some peace as the anesthesia began to take effect. My last thoughts before drifting into unconsciousness were of my children and the painful realization that a complete stranger had shown more concern for my family's well-being than the people who should have cared the most. The surgery was more complicated than expected. What should have been a standard laparoscopic procedure turned into a more extensive open surgery when the doctors discovered that the infection had spread. Instead of the typical 1-hour procedure, I was in surgery for nearly 4 hours. When I finally woke in the recovery room, the pain was different from before, sharper at the incision sites, but less all-consuming. A nurse noticed I was awake and came to check my vital signs. "Your surgery went well," she informed me. "The doctor will be by soon to explain everything, but they successfully removed your gallbladder and cleaned out the infection." My first coherent thought was of my children. "My twins." I rasped, my throat dry from the breathing tube that had been removed. "Are they okay?" The nurse smiled reassuringly. "The child care provider you arranged has been wonderful with them. The social worker checked in several times and your children are doing fine. They're in the family lounge right now." She handed me my phone from the bedside table. "The caregiver sent you several messages with updates." I unlocked my phone to find multiple text messages from Amanda, including photos of the twins engaged in coloring activities, eating dinner from the hospital cafeteria, and finally sleeping peacefully on a couch in the family waiting area, covered with blankets the hospital staff had provided. Her most recent message read, "Lucas and Lily are both asleep now. They've been so brave. Lucas wanted me to tell you his teddy bear is keeping watch so you'll get better faster. We'll be here when you wake up no matter what time. Don't worry about anything except getting better." Tears of gratitude filled my eyes at this stranger's kindness. I scrolled through my other notifications and saw several messages from friends who had somehow heard about my emergency surgery, sending their well wishes and offers of help. But there was nothing from my parents or Sophia. Not a single text or missed call asking how I was doing or if the children were okay. Out of curiosity, I opened Instagram and immediately saw a post from Sophia, a selfie of her with my parents at the Elton John concert, all three smiling widely with the caption, "Best night ever, with the best parents a girl could ask for. Elton John, farewell tour, family time." The timestamp showed it had been posted just 2 hours ago while I was still in surgery and my children were being cared for by a compassionate stranger. Something broke inside me in that moment, a final thread of hope that my family might actually care about me and my children. I had spent years making excuses for their behavior, years convincing myself that family was family despite their treatment of me. But seeing that photo, knowing they were enjoying themselves while I fought through emergency surgery, and my children were left in the care of someone we'd never met before today, crystallized a decision that had been forming in my subconscious for years. As soon as I was well enough, I would cut all ties with the people who had proven beyond any doubt that they didn't deserve a place in our lives. The recovery room nurse returned with pain medication, noticing the tears streaming down my face. "Are you in pain?" she asked with concern. "Yes," I answered truthfully, "but not the kind your medicine can fix." The days following my surgery were a blur of pain medication hospital visits from the few friends I'd managed to notify, and the gradual process of physical healing. Throughout it all, Amanda remained a constant caring presence, not only for my children, but for me as well. She had taken the twins to my home to gather clothes and comfort items, stayed with them overnight at the hospital, until I was moved to a regular room, and then helped transport us all home when I was discharged after 3 days. What had begun as an emergency childcare arrangement quickly evolved into something more comprehensive, as Amanda offered to stay with us during my initial recovery at home. "I can take a week off from my other commitments," she told me as she helped settle me onto the couch in my living room. "The twins have bonded with me now, and you'll need help while you recover." I was overwhelmed by her generosity. "I can't ask you to do that," I protested weakly. Amanda smiled, adjusting a pillow behind my back. "You're not asking, I'm offering. Besides, Lucas has promised to teach me the proper way to build a Lego spaceship, and I can't possibly disappoint him." With Amanda's help, we established a new routine. She took the twins to and from preschool, prepared meals, managed the house, and even helped field calls from concerned clients about project deadlines. In the evenings, she would sit with me after the twins were asleep, and we would talk about everything and nothing. It was during one of these evening conversations about a week after my surgery that I shared my decision about my family. "I'm cutting them off," I said, simply looking down at the mug of herbal tea Amanda had prepared. "Completely." Amanda nodded, her expression understanding rather than shocked. "You've mentioned some of their behavior. The concert during your surgery was just the final straw, wasn't it?" "Exactly," I confirmed. "It wasn't just that they refused to help during an actual medical emergency. It was the realization that this has been the pattern our entire lives. I give, and they take, and when I needed them most, they couldn't be bothered." I explained about the financial support I'd been providing all these years, the mortgage payments, the credit card bills, the vacations, all while they treated my requests for childcare as impositions. "Tomorrow, I'm making the calls," I said with newfound determination. "To the bank, to my lawyer, to everyone. I'm done being their personal ATM, while my children and I are treated as inconveniences." The next morning, while Amanda took the twins to the park to give me privacy, I made the first difficult call to my bank. I canceled the automatic transfers that had been sending money to my parents' accounts each month and removed them as authorized users on my credit card. Next, I called my cellular provider and changed my phone number, setting up automatic forwarding of calls from my old number to a voicemail that would allow me to screen contacts I wanted to maintain. The most difficult call was to my attorney, David, who had handled my divorce from Daniel years earlier. "I need to update my will," I told him after explaining the situation. "I want to remove my parents and sister as beneficiaries and ensure that if anything happens to me, my children's guardianship and financial affairs are arranged appropriately." David was professional and didn't question my decisions. "I'll draw up the necessary documents. We should also review the trust fund you established for the twins to ensure it's properly protected." After ending the call with David, I sat at my desk and wrote a formal letter to my parents. The process was painful, but cathartic. Dear Mom and Dad, I began, forcing myself to remain clear and unemotional. After careful consideration, I've decided to end our relationship. Your refusal to help during my medical emergency, choosing instead to attend a concert, made it abundantly clear where your priorities lie. This was not an isolated incident, but the culmination of years of one-sided giving on my part and taking on yours. Effective immediately, I am ending all financial support. The mortgage payments, credit card payments, and other financial assistance I've been providing will stop. I've changed my contact information and request that you do not attempt to reach me or my children. This decision wasn't made lightly, but for the well-being of myself and my children, it's necessary. Perhaps someday we can establish a healthier relationship, but only after significant changes on your part. Marina. I wrote a similar shorter letter to Sophia, then sealed both in envelopes and asked Amanda if she would mail them for me when she took the twins to preschool the next day. That evening, as I sat with Lucas and Lily during their bedtime routine, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. I was mourning the family relationships I had always wanted, but never truly had, while simultaneously feeling freed from the burden of constantly seeking approval and support from people who were incapable of giving it. "Mommy, are you still sick?" Lily asked as I tucked her into bed, her small hand reaching up to touch my face. "My tummy is getting better every day," I assured her, "and my heart is getting stronger too." "Is your heart sick?" Lucas asked from his bed across the room, concern evident in his voice. I smiled at his perceptiveness. Sometimes hearts can feel sick when people we love don't act very loving. But don't worry, my heart is healing too. As the days passed, the expected barrage of calls and messages began. My parents, discovering their access to my finances had been cut off, left increasingly frantic, and then angry voicemails on my old number, which I monitored occasionally. "Marina, there must be some mistake with the bank." My mother's first message began pleasantly enough. "The mortgage payment didn't go through this month." By the third day, the tone had changed dramatically. "This is childish and irresponsible," my father's voice boomed. "We have bills to pay. You can't just cut us off without warning." Sophia's messages vacillated between guilt trips and outright accusations. "Mom and Dad are really upset. Whatever issue you're having, you shouldn't take it out on them financially. That's just cruel." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I focused on my recovery, both physical and emotional, and on creating a stable, loving environment for my children with Amanda's help. 2 weeks after my surgery, I was beginning to regain my strength. Amanda had extended her stay, moving into my guest room semi-permanently, as we realized how well our arrangement was working. The twins adored her, and she brought a warmth and stability to our home that had been missing. I was just beginning to think about easing back into work when the doorbell rang one Saturday afternoon. Amanda was grocery shopping with the twins, and I was alone in the house reviewing design plans for a project that had been on hold during my recovery. When I opened the door, I found myself face to face with my parents and Sophia, all wearing expressions that ranged from concern to indignation. "We need to talk," my father stated firmly, attempting to step forward as if to enter my home without invitation. I blocked the doorway, my hand gripping the doorframe for support. "I have nothing to say to any of you." "Marina, this has gone on long enough," my mother interjected, her voice taking on the placating tone she always used when trying to smooth over problems. "Whatever misunderstanding has happened, we can work through it as a family." "Misunderstanding?" I repeated, disbelief evident in my voice. "I had emergency surgery for a ruptured gallbladder, and you chose a concert over helping with your grandchildren. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a clear statement of priorities." Sophia stepped forward, her expression a mixture of frustration and exasperation. "It was Elton John's farewell tour, Marina. We'd had those tickets for months." The absurdity of her statement, the implication that a concert could ever take precedence over a medical emergency, left me momentarily speechless. "We're family," my father continued, his tone softening slightly. Families have disagreements, but cutting us off financially is extreme and vindictive. And there it was, the true reason for their visit. Not concern for my health or well-being, not worry about their grandchildren, but panic over the loss of their financial support system. "You should come inside," I said, finally stepping back from the door. "We need to have this conversation once and for all." As my parents and sister filed into my living room, a strange calm settled over me. This confrontation had been building for decades, and now that it was happening, I felt oddly prepared for it. My father took a seat on the couch, my mother perched nervously beside him, while Sophia remained standing arms crossed defensively. I deliberately chose to sit in the armchair across from them, creating physical distance that mirrored the emotional gulf between us. "You look terrible," my mother commented, eyeing the still visible pallor of my skin from the surgery and recovery. "Have you been eating properly?" "I had major surgery 2 weeks ago," I replied evenly. "But yes, I've been well taken care of." "By who?" Sophia asked suspiciously. "Your friends can't possibly have time to help you with everything." "I hired someone," I said, simply not feeling the need to explain about Amanda and the beautiful friendship that had developed from our emergency arrangement. My father cleared his throat, clearly wanting to get to what he considered the main issue. "Marina, we received your letter and frankly were shocked by your overreaction. Yes, we couldn't watch the twins that day, but to cut us off completely financially and otherwise seems extreme." "Overreaction," I repeated, feeling the first stirrings of anger break through my calm facade. "I called you from the floor of my bathroom in excruciating pain, begging for help with your grandchildren while I went to the hospital, and you called me a nuisance and a burden." "We were stressed about missing the concert," my mother attempted to explain. "People say things they don't mean when they're stressed." I shook my head in disbelief. "No, Mom. People reveal what they truly think when they're stressed. You showed me exactly where I stand in your priorities, and it's somewhere below an Elton John concert." "That's not fair," Sophia interjected. "They've always been there for you." "Have they?" I challenged, turning to my sister. When have they ever put my needs or my children's needs first? I've been financially supporting all of you for years. I've paid for vacations, car payments, credit card bills, and even your mortgage, all while raising twins alone after their father abandoned us." My father shifted uncomfortably. "We're family. Family helps each other." "Exactly," I agreed. "Family helps each other." "So, where were you when I needed help? Where were you when I was being wheeled into emergency surgery and my children were left with a stranger because you wouldn't miss a concert?" My mother's eyes filled with tears, but I had learned long ago that her tears were often a manipulation tactic rather than genuine emotion. "We can't lose our house, Marina," she said, her voice trembling. "The bank called about the mortgage payment, and the property tax bill came yesterday." There it was, the real reason for their visit laid bare. Not concern for me, not remorse for abandoning me in my time of need, but panic over their financial situation. "I'm not responsible for your mortgage or your property taxes," I stated firmly. "I've been enabling your financial irresponsibility for years, and it stops now." "We're your parents," my father exclaimed, his face reddening with anger. "You have an obligation to help us." "And you had an obligation to be there for me when I needed you," I countered. "Obligations go both ways, Dad." Sophia, always quick to defend our parents, stepped forward. "You're being selfish, Marina. You've always been the financially successful one in the family. It's your responsibility to help those who aren't as fortunate." I turned to look at my sister. Really look at her, perhaps for the first time, seeing her clearly. "Sophia, you're 30 years old with a college degree. You've never held a job for more than 6 months because you find them all unfulfilling. You take expensive vacations, buy designer clothes, and live in a luxury apartment that I subsidize. That's not misfortune. That's entitlement." My blunt assessment left her speechless, her mouth opening and closing without words emerging. "I've made a decision," I continued, addressing all three of them. "I'm no longer going to support you financially. I'm no longer going to be the family ATM while receiving nothing but criticism and dismissal in return. I have 2 children to raise and support, and they deserve better than to see their mother treated this way." You'll regret this. My father warned, his voice low and threatening. We can make things very difficult for you. Are you threatening me? I asked, genuinely curious about how far he would go. We could sue you, he blustered. We have documentation of your promises to help with the mortgage. I couldn't help but laugh, though there was no humor in it. Sue me for what? For stopping voluntary financial assistance. Go ahead. I've already consulted with my attorney, and there's no legal obligation for me to continue supporting you. My mother, seeing that threats weren't working, switched to pleading. What about the children? Don't you want them to have a relationship with their grandparents? The same grandparents who couldn't be bothered to help them during a family emergency? I asked pointedly. The grandparents who called their mother a nuisance and a burden? No, I don't think that's a healthy relationship for them. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway signaled Amanda's return with the twins. I stood up, indicating that our conversation was concluding. I think it's time for you to leave, I said firmly. I don't want the children to see this confrontation. We're not finished discussing this, my father insisted, remaining seated. Yes, we are, I contradicted him. You can leave voluntarily now, or I can call the police and have you removed from my property. Your choice. The threat of police involvement seemed to penetrate his anger. He stood abruptly, taking my mother's arm. This isn't over, Marina, he said, his voice cold with fury. You'll come to your senses eventually. As they moved toward the door, Sophia lingered behind, her expression more calculating than upset. You know, this hurts Mom and Dad more than it hurts me, she said quietly. I can find other ways to support myself, but they're too old to start over financially. They should have thought of that before they abandoned me and my children when we needed them most, I replied, unmoved by her attempt at manipulation. As they filed out the front door, I could hear the twins' excited voices approaching from the driveway, chattering happily with Amanda about their shopping adventure. The contrast between the toxic interaction I'd just experienced and the genuine warmth and care that Amanda had brought into our lives couldn't have been more stark. My father turned on the porch, one last attempt at reasserting control. You'll regret this, Marina. Family is all you have in the end. I met his gaze steadily. No, Dad. Family is supposed to be the people who are there for you when you need them most. And that day in the hospital, I learned that the three of you are not my family, not in any way that matters. I closed the door as Lily and Lucas ran up the front walk, their small faces lighting up at the sight of me through the window. They were my family, and in Amanda, I had found something I'd never truly had before: unconditional support from someone who expected nothing in return. The confrontation had been painful, but as I opened the door to welcome my children home, I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right decision, not just for myself, but for them as well. The aftermath of the confrontation with my family brought a mixture of emotions I hadn't anticipated. While I remained firm in my decision to end their financial dependence on me, the reality of cutting ties with my only living relatives carried a weight of its own. For the first few days after their visit, I jumped whenever my phone rang, half expecting to hear my father's angry voice or my mother's tearful pleas. Instead, they began a more indirect approach to making their displeasure known. Did you know your parents are telling people you abandoned them financially without warning? My cousin Thomas asked during a surprise call a week after the confrontation. Thomas was one of the few extended family members I still maintained contact with, primarily because he had always seen through my parents' manipulations. I'm not surprised, I replied, settling onto the patio chair as I watched Lucas and Lily playing in the backyard with Amanda. What exactly are they saying? Thomas sighed heavily. That you've had some kind of breakdown after your surgery, that you've always been unstable and now you're punishing them for some imagined slight. They're playing the victim card hard, Marina. I had expected as much, but hearing it confirmed still stung. And people are believing them. Some are, he admitted, but others are asking questions. Your Aunt Margaret reminded everyone about your parents skipping your college graduation because Sophia had a dance recital the same weekend. And Uncle Robert mentioned how they borrowed $10,000 from you for their kitchen renovation, but somehow found money to take Sophia to Hawaii last year. It was oddly validating to hear that not everyone was accepting my parents' version of events without question. For years, I had internalized their narrative that I was difficult, demanding, and never satisfied with their attention or affection. Hearing others challenge that narrative helped reinforce that I wasn't the one with the distorted perspective. "There's something else you should know," Thomas continued, his voice becoming more serious. "Your father mentioned trying to get power of attorney over your finances, claiming you're not mentally stable enough to manage your own affairs." A cold knot of fear formed in my stomach. "Can he do that?" "Not successfully," Thomas assured me. "You're clearly competent, employed, and functioning well, but it shows how desperate they're getting about the money situation." After speaking with Thomas, I immediately called my attorney to alert him to this potential new threat. David reassured me that such an attempt would be virtually impossible to succeed with, but suggested documenting everything just in case. "Keep all communication record dates of incidents, and make sure your medical records clearly show you're recovering well and mentally sound," he advised. "And if they show up at your house again, don't let them in without witnesses present." The stress of these developments took a toll on my still recovering body. The incision sites from my surgery seemed to ache more intensely, and fatigue overwhelmed me by early evening each day. Amanda noticed my deterioration and insisted I schedule a follow-up with my doctor. "You're pushing yourself too hard," she observed as she brought me tea one evening after the twins were asleep. "Emotional stress can impact physical healing." She was right, of course. At my follow-up appointment, the doctor confirmed that my recovery had slowed, likely due to stress. "Your body needs rest to heal properly," she explained, "and that includes mental and emotional rest as well. Is there something specific causing you stress right now?" I hesitated before sharing a brief overview of the family situation. The doctor listened sympathetically before offering practical advice. "From a medical perspective, you need to prioritize your recovery right now. That might mean temporarily blocking their numbers, emails, or any avenue they're using to contact you. You can always reassess the relationship when you're physically stronger." It was sound advice, and I took it to heart. With Amanda's help, I set up stronger boundaries around communication. We changed the settings on my email to filter messages from my family into a separate folder that I could check when I felt emotionally prepared. I asked friends to screen any messages from them before passing information along to me. These measures created a protective bubble around my home and immediate life, allowing me to focus on healing and caring for my children. But the outside world still presented challenges. 2 weeks after changing my phone number, I received a series of letters from Sophia. Unlike my parents' angry demands, hers took a different approach, attempting to appeal to my sense of family loyalty and shared history. "I know Mom and Dad can be difficult," she wrote in her first letter, "but they're getting older, and they've always counted on your help. Is it fair to punish them so severely for one mistake? They were really looking forward to that concert." Her inability to understand the magnitude of their mistake and her continued framing of my decision as punishment rather than a healthy boundary told me all I needed to know about her perspective. Her second letter arrived a few days later, this one taking a harder line. "You've always been jealous of my relationship with Mom and Dad. This is just your way of getting back at all of us for imagined slights from childhood. Grow up, Marina. Family is family, and you don't throw them away over one bad day." I placed both letters in a file I had started labeled Family Documentation, without responding. Each interaction only confirmed that my decision had been the right one. The twins, meanwhile, occasionally asked about their grandparents and aunt. I struggled with how to explain the situation in age-appropriate terms, without demonizing their relatives. "Grandma and Grandpa are taking a time out from visiting us," I explained during dinner one evening when Lucas asked why we hadn't seen them lately. "Like when I hit Lily with my truck and had to sit in the thinking chair?" he asked, surprisingly perceptive for a 4-year-old. I smiled gently. "Something like that. Sometimes adults need timeouts too when they don't make good choices." "Do they miss us?" Lily asked, her small face serious. "I think they miss certain things," I answered truthfully. "But right now we're focusing on our family here, just the three of us and Amanda." The mention of Amanda brightened both their faces immediately, and the conversation shifted to their plans to help her bake cookies the next day. Amanda had become an essential part of our daily lives, transitioning from emergency childcare provider to something between a nanny friend and family member. She had her own apartment but spent most weekdays at our house helping with the twins and household management, while I gradually returned to work. Her presence provided stability during this tumultuous time, not just for the children, but for me as well. For the first time, I experienced what it felt like to have someone in my corner without conditions or expectations attached to their support. Meanwhile, the financial realities of my decision were becoming apparent. My accountant called with news that shocked even me. "I've been reviewing your finances as you requested," Jordan explained during our call. "Over the past 3 years, you've given your parents and sister approximately $260,000 in direct payments loans that were never repaid and covered expenses." The figure was staggering, even knowing how generous I had been. "That can't be right," I protested weakly. "I'm afraid it is," Jordan confirmed. "Their mortgage payments alone are nearly $4,000 monthly, which you've been covering for over 2 years. Then there's the credit card payments, car loans, property taxes, vacations, and miscellaneous expenses. It adds up quickly." Hearing the total quantified so clearly was eye-opening. No wonder they were panicking about being cut off. I had been bankrolling their entire lifestyle without fully realizing the extent of it. "The good news," Jordan continued, "is that redirecting these funds into your own savings and investments will significantly improve your financial future and security for the twins." It was a silver lining I hadn't fully considered. The money that had been flowing out to support my parents' and sisters' lifestyles could now secure my children's future education and my own retirement. As the weeks passed, I began receiving reports that my parents were indeed struggling financially. They had listed their house for sale, unable to make the mortgage payments without my assistance. Sophia had moved out of her luxury apartment into a more modest place with a roommate, and according to mutual acquaintances, had finally secured steady employment. These developments brought mixed emotions. I took no pleasure in their hardships, but I recognized that they were experiencing the natural consequences of years of financial dependence and poor decisions. For perhaps the first time in their adult lives, my parents were facing the reality that they needed to live within their actual means. "Do you think they'll ever understand why you had to do this?" Amanda asked one evening as we sat on the back patio watching the sunset after the twins had gone to bed. I considered her question carefully before answering. "Probably not fully. They've spent too many years viewing me as an extension of themselves as a resource rather than a person with my own needs and boundaries." "And your sister?" "Sophia might eventually get it," I acknowledged. "She's younger, and this is forcing her to develop independence she's never had. In a way, I might be doing her a favor in the long run." Amanda smiled, reaching over to squeeze my hand gently. "You know, for someone who just had major surgery and a family meltdown, you're handling all this with remarkable grace." Her words warmed something inside me, a recognition that despite everything, I was finding my way through this challenge with more strength than I had realized I possessed. "I have good support," I replied, squeezing her hand in return. As I looked out at the setting sun, I felt a sense of peace beginning to take root. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but for the first time in my adult life, I was making decisions based on what was truly best for me and my children, rather than what would please or appease my family of origin. The validation of those choices would not come from my parents or sister, but from the growing sense of authentic well-being in our home, the sound of my children's laughter, and the knowledge that I was finally modeling healthy boundaries for them, a gift my own parents had never given me. 6 months after my emergency surgery, life had settled into a new normal that felt more authentic and peaceful than anything I had experienced before. The physical scars from my operation had faded to thin silver lines, and the emotional wounds inflicted by my family's betrayal had begun to heal as well, though at a slower pace. The twins were thriving in their preschool program and had adjusted well to the absence of their grandparents and aunt in their lives. Children are remarkably resilient, and with consistent love and honest age-appropriate explanations, they had accepted the changes without lasting trauma. Amanda had become a permanent fixture in our household, eventually moving into our guest house when her apartment lease ended. What began as an emergency arrangement had evolved into a friendship that felt more like family than the biological connections I had severed. "Aunt Amanda, watch me," Lucas called one sunny Saturday morning as he pedaled his bike without training wheels for the first time, his face a mixture of concentration and pride. Amanda cheered enthusiastically from the sidewalk where she stood with Lily, who was still gathering courage to try riding without the extra wheels. The title Aunt had emerged organically from the twins several months earlier, and it felt right acknowledging the important role she had come to play in their lives. My professional life had flourished as well. Freed from the constant financial drain of supporting my parents and sister, I had been able to invest more in my interior design business, hiring an assistant, and taking on more selective projects that truly inspired me. The reduced stress and financial burden had created space for creativity and professional growth I hadn't realized was possible. It was during this period of relative calm that I met James, a single father who brought his daughter to the same park where I often took the twins on weekends. Our children played together while we gradually got to know each other through casual conversation. He was divorced, raising his 5-year-old daughter Emma alone after his ex-wife moved across the country for a job opportunity. There was something refreshing about James's straightforward nature and the obvious devotion he showed to his daughter. Unlike my ex-husband Daniel, who had abandoned his responsibilities at the first sign of difficulty, James had restructured his entire life around being present for Emma. After several accidental meetings at the park, he finally asked if the twins and I would like to join them for pizza and a movie night at his house. It wasn't explicitly framed as a date, but the intention was clear in his nervous smile and the way he had clearly rehearsed the invitation. "We'd love to," I had answered, surprising myself with how easily the acceptance came. After everything that had happened with my family and the betrayal I had experienced, I had expected to be more guarded about new relationships. That first evening together had led to others, a slow and careful getting to know each other that respected both our pasts and the children who were our priorities. James never pushed for more than I was ready to give, and in his patience, I found the space to trust again. Meanwhile, my parents had indeed been forced to sell their large suburban home, moving into a small 2-bedroom condominium that they could afford on my father's pension and the modest income my mother earned from part-time work at a local gift shop, a job she had taken out of necessity rather than choice. Sophia had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation. According to mutual friends and family members who still kept me updated, she had secured a stable job at a marketing firm, moved into a shared apartment with 2 roommates, and for the first time in her life was living entirely within her own means. Thomas, my cousin who had been supportive throughout the family crisis, reported that Sophia had even begun to show signs of understanding my perspective. "She admitted to me that she never realized how much you were supporting them all these years," he told me during one of our regular phone calls. "I think reality hit her hard when she saw their lifestyle completely collapse after you cut them off." The news brought mixed feelings. I took no pleasure in my family's financial struggles, but there was a certain satisfaction in knowing that the truth of their dependence on me had finally been exposed not just to them, but to the extended family and social circle who had often been fed a different narrative about our relationships. It was around the 8-month mark after my surgery that I received a letter different from the angry demands and guilt trips that had characterized earlier communication from my parents. This one, written in my mother's familiar handwriting, carried a different tone. "Dear Marina," it began. "I'm writing not to ask for anything but to acknowledge that your father and I have done a great deal of thinking about our relationship with you and the twins. We've spoken with a family counselor who has helped us understand how our behavior has affected you over the years." The letter continued, expressing what seemed like genuine regret for their actions on the day of my emergency, as well as a broader acknowledgement of the patterns that had defined our relationship for decades. "We realize now that we came to see you as the responsible one, the successful one who didn't need our emotional support because you were so capable. We took your financial help for granted while treating your requests for childcare as impositions. We can see now how unfair and hurtful that must have been." The final paragraph caught me by surprise. "We understand if you don't wish to resume contact, but if you would be willing, we would like to meet with you, perhaps with a family therapist present, to begin the process of making amends." Your father and I miss you and the twins terribly, and while we know we can't undo the past, we hope there might be a path forward even if it looks very different from before. I set the letter aside, unsure how to respond or even how I felt about this apparent change of heart. Was it genuine remorse or simply another strategy to regain access to my financial support? After discussing it with both Amanda and James, whose perspectives I had come to value, I decided to take a cautious step toward potential reconciliation. 2 weeks later, I sat in the office of Dr. Eleanor Matthews, a family therapist specializing in estrangement and reconciliation. My parents sat across from me, looking somehow smaller and older than I remembered. My mother's hair showed more gray than it had 6 months ago, and my father's confident posture had given way to a slight stoop. "Thank you all for coming today," Dr. Matthews began. "Marina, would you like to share what you hope to gain from this session?" I took a deep breath, centering myself before speaking. "I want to understand if there's a possibility of a healthier relationship moving forward, one based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. And I need to know if my parents truly understand why their actions were so hurtful, not just on the day of my surgery, but throughout our relationship." My mother nodded, dabbing at tears that had formed in her eyes. My father looked down at his hands, his usual defensive posture notably absent. "Patricia George, what are you hoping for today?" Dr. Matthews asked, turning to my parents. My mother spoke first, her voice trembling slightly. "We want to apologize to Marina, truly apologize, and begin to repair the damage we've caused. We've lost so much more than financial support. We've lost our daughter and our grandchildren, and we understand now that it was our own actions that created this situation." My father cleared his throat. "I've always been too proud to admit when I'm wrong. But these past months have been humbling. We've had to face some hard truths about ourselves and how we've treated Marina. I'm here because I want a chance to be a better father and grandfather even at this late stage." The session was emotionally exhausting but productive. With Dr. Matthews' skilled guidance, we unpacked decades of dysfunctional patterns, from the preferential treatment of Sophia to the exploitation of my financial success and the emotional manipulation that had characterized our interactions. My parents, to my genuine surprise, listened more than they defended. They acknowledged the pain they had caused and expressed what seemed like sincere regret for their actions. The therapist helped establish clear boundaries for any future relationship, emphasizing that reconciliation would be a slow process requiring consistent effort and respect for the new parameters I established. As the session concluded, Dr. Matthews asked if I would be open to another meeting in a few weeks, and whether I might consider allowing my parents supervised time with the twins if our sessions continued to progress positively. I agreed to the follow-up session, but was clear about my boundaries regarding the children. "We can continue talking, and if these changes seem genuine and lasting, we can discuss very limited supervised visits with the twins in the future. But I need to see consistent change over time before I'm comfortable with that." My parents nodded in acceptance, neither pushing back nor attempting to guilt me into more immediate access to their grandchildren. It was perhaps the first time they had truly respected a boundary I had set, a small but significant sign that perhaps some genuine change was possible. In the months that followed, we continued the therapy sessions, gradually establishing a new kind of relationship, one defined by clearer boundaries and expectations. My parents never returned to their previous lifestyle, accepting their more modest living conditions as the natural consequence of their choices. Sophia, too, had reached out, her perspective shifted by the reality check of financial independence. The twins eventually did resume contact with their grandparents, though on a limited basis, and always with me present. The relationship was different, more respectful of my role as their mother, with none of the undermining or criticism that had once characterized my parents' interactions with me regarding my parenting. As for my personal life, the relationship with James continued to develop at its own comfortable pace. Our blended family gatherings, with his daughter Emma joining my twins for weekend activities, became a regular part of our lives. Amanda remained an essential part of our family circle, her bond with the twins and supportive friendship with me undiminished by the new relationship. One evening, as James and I sat on my back patio watching the children play with Amanda in the yard, he asked the question that had been gradually forming between us. Do you think you could ever see us becoming a family, the six of us? I looked at the scene before me, the twins and Emma giggling as Amanda helped them set up a tent in the yard, James beside me, his presence solid and reassuring, and felt a sense of peace I had once thought impossible. I think we already are, I answered honestly, just not in the way I once thought family had to look. The journey from that desperate day when I lay on a hospital gurney, abandoned by those who should have cared the most, to this moment of genuine connection and healthy love had been long and often painful. But as I watched my children play secure in the knowledge that they were surrounded by people who truly put their needs first, I realized that the crisis that had seemed like an ending had actually been the beginning of something far more valuable. Sometimes the darkest moments in our lives provide the opportunity to find the true light. Not everyone deserves a permanent place in your life, even if they're biological family. And that perhaps was the most valuable lesson I learned through it all. If you've experienced similar family dynamics or had to make difficult decisions about toxic relationships, I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Remember to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life stories about setting boundaries and finding peace, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own well-being. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the family we choose brings more healing than the family we're born into.